Hello everyone, Verb here. Today I'll be talking about late surgers in the Libra Cup. This is Champions Meeting 18. This is of course the second of the four role-based guides where I go over skills cards and characters for the various different running styles. Today is late surgers. I really enjoy late surgers. I'll probably be running at least two of them, and my account is pretty much um, kind of leaning towards that direction, mostly because I enjoy watching their come from behind victories. Don't really have too much of an intro this time, so let's just begin and talk about late surgers. Are late surgers good? I think they are pretty good this time. They have additional tools available to them. While they're technically underperforming at the moment in room matches from what people have reported to me. When I actually go and look at the builds that they are sending me, a lot of people are not utilizing the new tool available to them in Lightning Surge or Leap Forward, not even the white variant. I think there's enough of those in the pool right now for these early testings because people haven't made their full aces yet. That's causing them to be slightly underperforming at the moment. I think that will even out over time. The fact of the matter is, all four roles have gotten additional tools in the past 2 months. The frontrunners and pace chasers have additional mid-race that's very easily accessible to them. The backliners have access to additional acceleration, although it's on either power cards or through parents. And I think you at least need to go and loop in the white versions of the primary accelerations we'll talk about in the skill sections. Other than that, I think late surges are still rather easy to build. You just put those two accels on we'll talk about, and then throw as much late race and some mid race on, and I think you're fine. And there's still plenty of character options. The only problem is that you have high PDM. You do not have Umamusume to bail you out of that, and our position-based skills are both on power cards in the mid race, and also they are weirdly positioned when the actual composition of the room is in flux, because our excels are basically fourth or worse or fifth or worse. So sometimes we're just going to be too far forward in our position. A lot of the bearing of your success in late surgers is going to be on your parents, because we don't have access to our mid race on our cards, and a lot of our cards that are speeds cards are just general gold skills that everyone else also has access to. So the more time you spend into your parents in this independent training, I think the more success you're going to have on late surgers. Otherwise, the stat suggestions are not changed for the various different styles. Just note that late surgers have a better HP coefficient, so you can slack a little bit, let's say 575 on stamina guts, and I think you're still going to be fine most times, but do just consider it, I guess, as some debuff protection. But if you don't hit exactly 600, I think you're going to be just fine. Just remember that a green stamina skill that is relevant, that will proc on this track, is worth more than a white recovery, and it is half the cost. So those are very valuable this time. Otherwise, you're just grabbing a mixture of power and wit, particularly with the lightning surge or leap forward. Having additional power for power release actually is somewhat valuable. It's not the be all end all, but it does actually go and help you trigger the is overtake condition a little bit easier, but that is not the only way it can trigger. And so I'm not going to 100% say your run is glue if you're not getting power surge, but it does help out just the tiniest of bits. But you can just survive on lower power if that is what the game just happens to be giving you. For skills, your primary accelerations are on your left or slick surge, and flash forward, leap forward is now called lightning surge. So basically the Daichi Ruby card will give lightning surge, or the nice nature card will give on your left. I highly suggest, if you're able to try to get at least one of these two golds. We'll talk about which one in later parts of this video, but I think that either a 0.4 here and a 0.2, a white skill on one and a gold skill on another, is probably enough. You can put some supplementaries if you want to. If you're doing double white, you might need some more position-based accelerations through either Let's Pump Some Iron by sniping 6th place, or through Budding Blossom by going and basically chaining your 5th place or 4th place skill on your left, or Slick Surge into a Budding Blossom to hit that additional 0.2. You can late proc Budding Blossom and you're perfectly fine on this track as well. There's many ways to go about this CM for that. I think as long as you have a decent amount of acceleration, more acceleration generally is not that bad. Now, Updrafter is the only problem with it. I do have it as a primary, not because it's required this time, but because it's still, I think, a good card. The good skill, sorry. not a good card. Ogre Cap Power is not really a good card. But Updrafters being 6th place or worth is a little bit tough. It is also worse timing than on your left at this point, but it is just, I mean, it is a very, very, very high roll skill. You can see it has an additional length and a half over on your left, even on perfect proc timing. So it's there. It's better than the secondary accelerations, but it isn't much, much better than the two. So try to focus on the Slick Surge and Leap Forward. Try to get at least the white versions on your Uma. For secondary accelerations, you can chain into Special Week. That's always a great option because you get current speed additional to the 0.05. You also can run a Dota ult if you want to. I Never Goof Up is very, very finicky, but if you do hit it, it is, again, a basically free pass 0.1 if you wish, or Nimble Navigator, I think, is what most people are going to do and be supplementary. Now, Nimble Nav is basically, if you wide swing, it's not going to proc. It's also not reliable whatsoever. I say it procs about 1 out of every 4 to 1 out of every 5 times, but it is usually just enough to push you over the edge on at least enough that I think that it's worth that 100 to 150 skill points when we do it there. Egg Power is available as well. Otherwise, Dauntless I still think is a perfectly fine skill this time. It is a weaker version of Glittering Star, but we don't have, of Radiant Star, but we don't have access to Radiant Star anymore, and now it's basically a 0.35 with upside, so it's not the worst thing in the world to grab, even at the white version of Fearless. Red Hot Discipline, the problem with Bamboo Memory as an inherit is only 0.05, so it's only going to happen if you pass enough people very, very, very quickly, which probably puts it below the other accelerations. It's just here to note that you do actually get 0.05 acceleration. It does work as a pseudo trigger sometimes. Again, it's very finicky, the is overtake condition for that leap forward or that lightning surge. Some accelerations I don't suggest. Pretty much all the final corner accels don't work this time. Shooting for Victory, Redshift are both much too early. I don't think you're passing into 5th late enough for Redshift in my personal opinion. I think that there's too much final corner this particular time. Now, the same thing goes with Fantasy Pasa. The same thing kind of goes with Gold City. It's very, very, very untrustworthy in that case, and it kind of requires you to wide swing, which is not a position in which you're winning. Otherwise, Corner Connoisseur kind of goes and triggers about 1 out of every 6 times. Highlander is, of course, too late. You see it's 0.01 lengths here because, of course, it's not in the Excel zone at all. And acceleration is just going to proc way too early 90% of the time, in my opinion. For velocity skills, to start with your early race, this is one of the downsides of being a backliner, is that we don't have access to as much early race quote unquote skills that the pace chasers have. Fighter is too late. It has an accumulate time 5, so it's already out of the PDM release, so it's not going to be too useful for us, even if it does decide to proc. Otherwise, your straight skills are basically your gambling to PDM break. See You Later should proc early. Big Sisterly or Unyielding Spirit should proc pretty early because you should be passing somebody pretty early. It's on a ramp up's great. Uma Stands good, Perfect Spot, and Slipstream. Basically, you're grabbing the white skills of a lot of these, and you're probably grabbing See You Later. If you have See You Later, you're usually able to go and make sure your position is decent as a late surger to try to get in that 5th or 6th range where you're trying to be and trying to prepare for the late race in. For your mid race, you do have the additions of Full Throttle and Keep Going. I think because it only burns about 30 to 40 stamina, you probably take Full Throttle this time. It shouldn't be that hard to compensate for. Otherwise, Fast and Furious is on a power card, unfortunately, so it's not listed, but Position Pilfer is great. Fast and Furious, if your Uma has it, is great as well. It's one of the few mid-race options that is available to late surgers at the moment in the current meta. Otherwise, your corner skills are usually 95% of the time in the mid-race, and sorry, I forgot to take off Unstoppable. So all we have is Professor of Curvature and changing gears technically if we hit the front somewhere in that mid-race. Otherwise, Eternal Moments, you want the stuff that prepares on that 50% mark. Stuff like Nemesis also kind of works as well. So Tail Held High is always good. Okay, so we don't have as much mid-race as the Pace Chasers. Like I said, we're probably going to fall back a little bit in the pack. But we have a couple of final corner skills. We have the additions of Rising Dragon and Full of Vigor, or the white versions Outer Swell and Pumped. Full of Vigor technically is the better one. It does have a slight dead zone at the end, but most times I think it's worth it to have the additional speed carryover chance, because this, again, a speed carryover will trigger that is overtake condition for lightning surge, or the like. So I think these skills are very good, both of them. The only issue with outer spell is that it is an outer pass and it's difficult to do so, and that is where your mid-race skills come into play. Is hopefully this is priming your pass so that you're able to get past the trigger point for these passing skills to then go and speed carryover. That's kind of how these backliners work on these miles from my personal experience. Stuff like Shadow Break and Blazing Pride for people who don't have Narita Bryan, they work as well. 0.25 versus 0.15 downhill speedster will work, I guess, 30% of the time to speed carryover. It's a very high percent chance to actually speed carryover. It's just if it whiffs, it completely whiffs. So I would suggest it because it's just a free one length. About 30 to 40% of the time, let's say. It's a little bit less, about 30% of the time. And it's just, its upside is so high that I think that if you have it and it does appear, you take it. I'm not sure you absolutely need to loop it in this time. Wherever this wonder leads is the Hat Dober unique. It's a little interesting because it's supposed to proc immediately on your downhill when you're between 4th and 7th, I believe. And it is about 8 meters too short this time, which means if you proc a bunch of skills, it technically leaks in and speed carries over the tiniest of bits, but it generally will not. So don't consider this any more valuable than stuff like, I guess, Brian Ultimate. It's just, it has a different purpose. It's just general mid race and can prime other passing skills as well. So unfortunately, no speed carryover for the Dober Hat unique this time. It's just another mid race skill. For late race, you do have Triumph and Pulse. You have Shooting Star, which is special weak. You have Prideful King. If you have neither of those, she still can proc from 4th place, and you might get a few cinema victories from it. Otherwise, 15 mil or 1.5 mil CC, that uphill is in a position where it's really nice to have bonus accelerate or bonus speed because it's just at like pedal timing basically. Sorry, not pedal timing. It's on Racing Spirit Power and Racing Spirit Stam, the final spurt timing. So it's not messing with your other uniques. It's very good, and it's very cheap. Late Surger Straights and Mile Straights are great. Beeline Burst, Straightaway Adept works, of course. Nothing Ventured. Again, it can be mid-race or late race, and it does technically have a 10% chance to burn 0.4, but even if it does that, it's only 60 to 80 stamina, so it's not the end of the world. And Home Stretch Chase is, of course, always a good skill now that they actually have made it so it does not clip anymore. To do late race final corner stuff like Biwahai Hide does get completely eaten, and I still think that even if you are late procking it, I think you're going to pass into 4th position and proc this early, but it can technically late proc because we are not necessarily in that 4th position now, but I don't think it's useful enough to take over some of the other uniques in the game. The pedal to the metal, also does not really work this particular track because the final straight is still too close to that excel zone. I know a lot of people are looping this. This is with a perfect proc on your left and a perfect proc lightning surge, and it still gets eaten about 70% of the time. So I don't think pedal to the metal is actually worth taking this time. It's only 0.2 lengths, and most of the skills have 0.4. If we go back here, you see like a regular proc's about 0.6 on a double circle late surger straight. So I don't think it's good enough this time. Your Snary skills are the same for pretty much everyone this time. Ignite Spirit Power is an alternative excel. Same with Ignite Spirit Guts. Racing Spirit Stamina is going to drain a little bit, but it's very powerful because it's a whole half length. Racing Spirit Power is only slightly behind and only is overtake, which you should be still trying to pass people at that point of the race. Otherwise, most of the other ones are not too great this time. You just kind of get them if you have nothing else to buy with your skill points. For cards, you are defaulting to the best stat cards you have still, which means you are still using Agnes Tachyon, even though she doesn't really give you anything because she is that powerful in giving you currency and giving you those stats and the skill points. So she's still worth running, even though you are a late surger. Otherwise, you are running You are running Light Hello for See You Later, and of course, the fact it is a PAL card in Grand Live that it has Scenario Link. For speed cards, we don't really have a particular late surge speed card that's that great. You do have Seeking the Pearl Speed as an option, but it is not the be all end all. It just gives you Dauntless and a bunch of late surger hints. Otherwise, Kidison Black is perfectly fine, just gives you Professor of Curvature. If you want to lobby gamble, you can try for Mile Maven with the Taiki speed card. I just think there's going to be enough front runners and pace chasers to remove you from that slot in the early race. Otherwise, you're filling it up with the best cards that you have available to you. Just note that Shinko Windy does give you some mile skills. Vodka Speed does give you some mile skills as well. Sweep Tosho gives you Lone Wolf and Slipstream and a skill point bonus, and Asian Flash does give you some late surger hints, but shouldn't necessarily be 100% prioritized due to its slightly lower speed output. Go and play this by field. Most likely, I generally would run Shinko Wendy plus Sweep Tosho. I think they have the highest speed and skill point output, so that's generally what I would suggest. Otherwise, for wit cards, your primarily wit card would be Nice Nature for on your left if you can. It's very, very good. It's a 0.4 on a wit card that gives you great upside without any hit onto your deck composition. You can still run the 3-2 Light Hello deck while running a wit card. Otherwise, you're running the best wit card that you have available, including Fine Motion. Even though you are not a pace chaser, she still has a bunch of speed greens in right-handed, fall runner, and outer post proficiency. Otherwise, Mr. CB is there, of course, for Tail Held High, or you can run Tail Wit for Professor of Curvature. For SR wit cards, again, run the best ones you got, but Machikane Fukukitaru has right-handed guaranteed on chain, as well as having very good initial friendship bonus to go and help you out get those currencies early in Grand Life. Otherwise, Daiwa Wit has very good wit output. You can run Marby Wit if you want to go and fish for Tail Held High or ramp up. For utility cards, I think because of Ruby's existence, if you're running a power card, you probably should just be running Ruby because she gives you Lightning Surge, which is a whole additional 0.4 acceleration. You can technically run Helios Speed for a perfect spot if you wish, but I think if you're running utility card, you're running the power card. And because your borrow is probably going to be either one or the other. Now, my personal verdict for this CM, like I said in the Daichi Ruby video, is probably to borrow Nice Nature Wit because it doesn't mess with your 3-2 Light Hello deck. Now, there's a little more nuance now. It just depends on how many runs you want to do, because hypothetically, Nice Nature Wit, you can just go and replace with a Fine Motion or a Mr. CB in your deck, and you actually have probably more wit output than Nice Nature actually gives you. But you are signing up for the 2-1-2 Light Hello deck with a utility card, which has naturally less speed output. And so it's not going to be, I don't know, man. It's not going to be as consistent. It's going to require you to go and run more runs. And a lot of people don't want to do that. I completely understand. And for those people, which I think is most of the community, I think you go and you borrow Nice Nature for on your left and you loop in your Leap Forward. This is just on your left plus Leap Forward versus Slick Surge plus Lightning Surge, which are two separate skills, of course. So the difference is that if you do decide to go and do the Daichi Ruby power, if you're able to hit your stats and all other things notwithstanding, this does technically high roll by 0.75 lengths in expected value because of the way on your left works, where it can proc any time in the first half of that late race. Whereas, honestly, and I kept saying this and I did tests on it, Lightning Surge in any position where you're winning pretty much procs even before that straight, but even earlier than that, it procs almost instantly, to be honest. And so because of that, its expected value is just simply higher. Now, it's only 0.75 lengths, but you're going to lose by 0.75 lengths a lot. So it is very nice if you're able to actually pull it off. It's just going to be a lot less consistent, a lot less harder for you to do so. Now, it's high at highs if you consider its true high roll potential, not just EV, but if both hit on each side. It doesn't actually have any increase, but again, that's not going to happen very often on your left, even at a shorter distance. Half the time it will be basically at half effectiveness of Lightning Surge. So that's my analysis on it. Most times, I think most people probably should borrow Nice Nature this time. If you are looking to, after you build your passable Umas, go and borrow your Ruby and try some 2-1-2 decks. You're probably not going to enjoy it, and you probably will not continue with it, but if you stick it out, I think you can get higher ceiling Umas through borrowing of the Daichi Ruby, assuming you have the wit cards required to play the scenario. For deck building, I think it's pretty simple. You're running 3/2 Light Hello, and you are borrowing your Nice Nature for your Wit card. If you are running a utility card, you are running Daichi Ruby, most likely because it's a 1 LB or higher for maximum potential. And if you're at 0 LB, you're just losing some skill points. So if you do own a copy and you want to try it out, I suggest running the 2 power Light Hello to Wit deck with some speed and stamina sparks instead of some stamina sparks, because you're going to have to supplement the speed generation in this case. Or you can, with a 20% growth Wit Uma or a ton of Wit sparks, you can go and sacrifice 1 Wit card for it and run a 3 speed, a 1 power, and a Wit, and try to hit around 900 to 1000 Wit if you can. This is still a high roll strategy. It's going to be a little tough, but I still think it is viable in this one. Again, Wit sparks will help you out in this particular case. For characters, I'm going to grab a drink real quick. So for characters, got a couple of them. We're going to do the same thing we did in the Pace Chaser video. I'm going to go through about half of them, a little bit more, and then go and do the actual, what's it called? The checklist to release everyone who's just looking for that. There are timestamps, like I said, in the description if you are looking for that. And then we'll go over the rest of them. I may have missed a few because there's just so many late surgers, but I've tried my best to include a lot of them, and the ones that I think are relevant and interesting to talk about. So let's begin with what I think is probably the best one. Oguri Cap Original is just Triumphant Pulse is such a good skill. It's truly that. A 0.45 in the late race as a late surger is incredibly powerful. You have Nimble Navigator and Kit, which is your secondary excel, which means you're primarily trying to get on your left, and you're trying to get Lightning Surge on this character for a 0.8 with a Nimble Nav high roll of 1.0. You load her up with late race with 20% speed and 10% power, and she's going to be an absolute monster. Hat Dober is right up there with the 20% speed and 10% wit. She is very easy to build, and particularly so, she just has a ton of different skills that actually work on this particular mile track because of the downhill. Again, downhill speedster can go and speed carry over her. Wherever this wonder leads, guarantees speed carry over when it actually procs, if you're in position, of course. And then from there, that will go and trigger your lightning surge guaranteed at that point. I wouldn't say guaranteed. You still have to be in the field of vision, but it's going to 90 to 95% of the time. You do have Dauntless for a secondary excel that also works as target speed if you wish. And of course, full throttle updraft. There's a ton of different mile skills that I didn't expect Dober to actually have, but she is incredibly formidable this time because of the guaranteed speed carryover with the additional high roll chance, kind of chaining into that lightning surge plus 6 surge, at least I would say. Special week, 20% stamina bonuses are only downside. If you're able to get past that, this is one of the most busted characters in the game now, because Shooting Star is a 0.35 current speed buff with 0.1 acceleration, which means that if you pass somebody at any point, you're getting bonus acceleration, and you're not losing any of that current speed, because that current speed can go and override the excel zone. We talked about that in the current speed and versus target speed and speed carryover video. So she's an incredibly, really good character. You just have to get around that 20% stamina. Now you can utilize that 20% stamina by using something like Daichi Ruby and pressing the power button here or there, and that will give you some value, and probably going and moving some of those sparks over to speed. She has Homestretch Haste Gold. She has Outer Swell, Slick Surge, Corner Adept, Wet Conditions. So it's a firm conditions map. I'm sorry about that. But she just has so much to give you, and I think she is actually going to be a menace in this particular CM. Seeking the Pearl, brand new character, 10% speed, 20% wit, cannot go wrong with that. Can even try solo witting if you wish, and trying to go and grabbing that lightning surge through the Daichi Ruby card. I'm Possible is a velocity skill that is a triumphant pulse if you are at all pretty close to winning. Sometimes it will be a 0.35, sometimes it will be a 0.45. It kind of depends on where you are in the pack, of course, but I think in the situations where you're winning, you will get that triumphant pulse, and that will be enough to get you and push you over the finish line in first place. She does have a secret event for mile straights and corners, as we figured out during her video, but she has Big Sisterly, which is a very cheap and efficient skill with firm conditions and Umastan in kit as well. Bamboo Memory is one of the most interesting characters, in my opinion, on this CM. In theory, and in the few tests that I've run with her, There is a consideration that you may not even need on your left on her. And the reason is because Bamboo Memory, if you're in position for Lightning Surge, you can go all in with it and try to use her ultimate to go and trigger it. Rising Hot Discipline will give you that initial 0.1. That means you will be going faster than somebody. You are already going faster than them because you are a late surger compared to a pace chaser, but that extra 0.1 will make it so that Lightning Surge will proc near perfectly and near immediately, and from there hopefully you are able to basically teleport at that point, which triggers more of your ultimates, which means you're passing people, etc, etc, etc. Do note that she does also have Full of Vigor and Rising Dragon for her mid race, which is an incredible advantage over most of the late surger cast. Now, there's not that many people running this in tests right now, but I think she is incredibly powerful, and I think she is quite slept on at this point. Christmas Oguri Cap, I'm not going to suggest in the late surger position because I think you either should be trying the easy build for Pace Chaser or you should be trying the high roll build for End Closer. So I don't think you should be running Oguri Cap Christmas in the late surger position, in my personal opinion, but I guess you do get a small breather, but it's not enough to warrant it. Agnes Digital will always be very strong. Now this time, because the final corner is not that much, the spurt is so late on the final corner, there isn't really enough time to utilize what you were seeing my Digiton do on the previous CM with the lane movement stuff, but she still is able to go and win the race through OMG the final sprint because it's such a good skill in general and you will not get blocked from it. Otherwise, Super Stan will establish your position in the late surger pack because no one else is able to grab Super Stan early because they only have access to Umastan, of course. Late surger straights and kit, up directors and kit, and if you go and get the quiz right, depending on which one she gives you, she may give you home stretch haste or mile corners as well. One more drink. OG Gold City. OG Gold City has on your lefting kit, which means you can just go and kind of trigger this with Daichi Ruby and try to get that great 0.8. She has Slipstream. If you wide swing, keep it real, sometimes gives you Excel in the Excel zone, but most times it's going to proc slightly too early because it's 50% or later. It's not the greatest thing in the world. Do note she is a Keen Eye character. You probably don't get Keen Eye when you are running your aces in this case, unless I guess you need the stamina. Gold City Festival, Dancing in the Leaves is block sign continue time, which means it's very finicky. A lot of times you will wide swing and not see this at all. Sometimes you may actually see this get Excel, but again, it is just one of the most finicky conditions in the game because you need someone to be alongside you for 2 seconds. Otherwise, she has a bunch of skills that are great. Late surgery corners, 1.5 mil, slick surge, unyielding spirit, and line weight if you do need that additional stamina. The big thing about Gold City Festival is that she does have speed, power, and wit bonus, which is very nice in this Grand Live scenario. Yayano Miteki, again, another character I think is pretty underrated. Yes, she doesn't have a tripulse. She has a 0.355 seconds, but it also works from first if you are early, so it's a win more ultimate. But again, it's a late race ultimate. That's great, and she has its on, which a lot of characters in, like, you're not really able to run the Yayano Miteki card this time, so you have additional mid race that's not available to the rest of the late surger pack, late surger cast. Now, you do have 20% power bonus, which does help you in the speed wit deck. Also, if you press the power button as well, that 10% guts is not going to be the most useful thing in the world, however. Kawakami Princess is a No Stopping Me character. Unfortunately, No Stopping Me is not the most reliable thing to use on this track, but do remember Princess Must Seize Victory still can proc in that late race because you're probably passing somebody close by, which means that you're probably block side continue timing them, hopefully. Otherwise, Rising Dragon in kit is her general advantage over the rest of the cast. Late Surger straightaways will help her out. The only tough thing is that 20% guts bonus is not going to be the most useful thing in the world. Air Groove Wedding has Eternal Moments, that it's a 50% speed skill in the mid-race, which means you have an advantage because you actually have mid-race, but also because you're priming those passes on the final corner for stuff like Namrita Brian Ultimate. 10% speed, 10% power is very serviceable with Big Sisterly and Home Stretch Chasing Kit. Big Sisterly being a very cheap skill for you to establish that early race advantage. Narita Brian will always be very good. Shadow Break is an incredible skill that can high roll if you do actually pass somebody on that final corner, because it can speed carry over 0.45, which is incredible. Otherwise, you do still have Beeline Burst and Body and Mind. Now, Beeline Burst is a 50-50, but most likely 50-50, it's half the time going to help you in the early race and half the time help you in the late race, and Body and Mind is Home Stretch Haste, and she's just a massive velo bomb for the final corner, so this really, really helps you out. 10% speed is very useful. The 20% stamina is not going to really help you unless you have a power card. Satono Diamond has right-handed demon, and this is a right-handed track with firm conditions because it's a firm track this time, and fall runner because we are racing and fall. So she has 3 greens built in. Eternal Incumbency Shrine is most likely a zero point 0.5 in the positions that you are actually winning. I believe it's 2 lengths. It might be 5 meters instead of 10 meters, so it might be a little more sus, but either way, you're getting 0.45 or 0.35 pretty consistently. And otherwise, straightaway in depth in kit, and 15% wit bonus, which isn't the best thing in the world, but it might be enough to get you to solo wit if you are struggling getting your speed. Otherwise, that 15% stamina bonus is a little tough. Let me try this. Matekani Fukihitaru full armor is actually not terrible. Now, you do need to increase the mile aptitude a little bit, but she has Slick Surge in kit and right-handed in kit and Bountiful Harvest. I believe you should be pressured by somebody in the back half of the pack as a late surger. That's also known as a Christmas Ogre on your butt. But the issue with her is just her growths being Stam Guts. Stam Guts 10% each with only 10% wit to help you out. But she isn't completely useless. Her full armor skin is not completely useless this particular CM. Special Week Summer has a recovery ultimate, so you basically completely ignore stamina during the career because your recovery will get you through it. Otherwise, it's on and Fast and Furious, 2 great mid-race skills in her kit, which will trigger her unique, of course, and home stretch haste to grab it. So she's not as good as OG because of her ceiling is lower, but she is very comfortable because you don't need to actually really care about stamina whatsoever because you're getting about 130 from the actual gold recovery in her kit. Similarly, Rudolph, if you're able to pull off the fact that you have to somehow get your speed, power, and wit high enough without growth in any of it, regular OG Rudolph is very powerful because Behold Thine Emperor's Divine Might, if you should be passing 3 people eventually in order to get from your 4th place position or your 3rd place position, and that pretty much seals the deal with Behold Thine Emperor's Divine Might. It's one of the inherits that we put on late surgers for a reason. It's just simply that powerful, and the fact she has Professor of Curvature means that you can even swap out Kidus in Black for something like a Marzensky Speed if you're trying to high roll your speed numbers. It's not 100% required to have Kida on this character, which is actually quite an advantage at this point. Tamamo Cross has, I believe, Mile E, so it's a little bit tough, but you do generally want to try to get that mile altitude up anyways. The reason why I'm putting her in the late surger position, even though she can run end closer, is because I think 2 things. First of all, I think that 6th place, 5th place is going to be available to you for her unique, but also because that additional goal in Fast and Furious is very useful as well. Mid-race again is at a premium for late surgers. Having 2 gold mid-race skills will pretty much mean you're in front of the rest of the late surgers. I guess for better or for worse, hopefully you're not in 2nd place from that, but I think you should be fine and you should be pretty close to the Pace Chaser pack to either try to nimble nav even off of them or just go and pass them on that corner depending on timing and get stuff like Shadow Break off. She's very powerful, and she has a very powerful power button because 10% power and 20% stamina, so I would try to go and see a couple runs on the Daichi Ruby card and see if you actually enjoy it. You just kind of load up on Speed Sparks with that. Here's some 1 and 2 star options for you players just starting out. Vodka, I think, is probably the best late surger option at this point. Cut and Drive is basically baby Triumphant Pulse. She has Furious Feet in kit as well, which is Updrafter's Gold, so you can high roll from being back in the pack. You basically really try to focus on late race in this character so that you have chance to high roll with Updrafters with either Slick Surge or, with some other gold skill that she has, like Slick Surge on your left as well. With that out of the way, she has Bofa if you do not have enough stamina, Nimble Nav, Slick Surgeon Kit, of course, Shifting Gears, Mile Straightaways, all the mile skills. She is, of course, a mile horse, and particularly good about her is a 10% speed and 20% power. Pedal to the Metal is not necessarily the best skill in the world in this CM, at least from where the tests are happening. I think that the rest of her kit is very, very good. Grass Wonder is the opposite. 20% speed and 10% power is her advantage over the rest of the field. She is very good because of the stats in general, especially if you're just starting out. And of course, on your left in kit means that you can grab both golds, or you can just completely ignore it and just pick your best stat cards to hit your stat thresholds. She is a dominator character for 564, but I think that you should give her a chance to actually win something because I think she's very, very powerful. I ran this the last mile CM. The last mile CM, I think it was CM11, maybe? No, that was the dirt one. one of the mile CMs I ran her, and she was just absolutely ridiculous. You pass anyone from third or worst, and then you get will there's a way, and on your left is basically your primary acceleration. You just load up Excel and late race on her, and she is incredibly powerful. Measure Orion is particularly there just for sniping sixth place. It's a 0.4. If you snipe it, you hit, you try and win at that point. Rising Dragon in kit as well with the 20% power, 10% wit is not bad whatsoever. Your group is there particularly for the 20% power, 10% speed, but she's pretty much a blank slate. Blazing Pride is just a final corner pass like Shadow Break. Same thing, you kind of play her exactly like Narita Bryan. It's just, of course, she is slightly worse than her, honestly, due to her kit not being as useful. It's all debuffs that you're not really going to be using. OG King Halo, Prideful King is Baby Triumphant Pulse, and the 20% power bonus is really good. The one thing I did note last CM is that in positions where there's a lot of pace chasers that you aren't necessarily passing at this moment, you can go and secure a bunch of wins with Prideful King with a Triumphant Pulse inherit, and because Oguri Cap is a better parent than King Halo, a lot of times your Oguri parents are going to be better than whoever is using a King Halo inherit to do something similar, or any other 200 meter 0.25 that exists in the game. Usually those aren't as valuable as Oguri, and that's kind of King Halo's only advantage over like Oguri Cap in general, is that she can just add Oguri Cap Ultimate to it, and if you both of them proc, then she's at odds with it. So otherwise, out of proficiency in kit, particularly just standard horse in my opinion. Machikane Tanhoi is there just to ignore your stamina requirement because you have an HP in kit. You have to get like 450 instead of 600. She does have 20% stamina, 10% guts, so it's not the best growths in the world. She does come with a bunch of different mile skills as well, like updrafters and mile corners and home stretch haste and slick surge and all this good stuff. She's a very powerful character because she has HP recovery on a mid-race skill that actually does go and give you some target speed. So that's all the characters I wanted to talk about in the first half, of course. So here is your checklist, just to, if you're coming back from the timestamps, welcome. Try to hit your stats, try the best you can, get a balance of power and wit, of course. Try to get 600 stamina, 600 guts. If you don't hit it exactly, you are a late surger, so you do have a little bit of wiggle room there. And finally, your speed, try to get it as high as possible as you can. Otherwise, your primary excel should probably be some combination of on your left and leap forward, or slick surge and lightning surge. If you need white skills of both, you need to supplement it with some secondary accelerations. After that, try to grab a mid-race skill or two. I know it's difficult on late surges, and then prioritize your late race like Tripulse Inherit, Home Stretch Haste, etc. After that, if you have additional skill points, you can consider a secondary or a tertiary excel to high roll, or just grab more mid and late race. That has been the late surger checklist. Let's talk about more characters. Fuji Kaseki can be run in the late surger position. She is late C though, and is actually a decent pace chaser. Lights of Vaudeville, as long as there's someone behind you, usually will proc now with the bonus in the 7-1 patch. Otherwise, Big Sisterly is a chief skill, like we said, with a 20% power bonus. Simply Ruta Festival, you kind of have to late proc this by not being in 4th place until you get max speed. In that situation, it's not too great, but she has Fall Frenzy because this is a fall track. That's good. 60 speed, 60 power, but honestly, her unique will still probably get eaten by the Excel Zone, at least mostly. 8% speed, 8% wit to help you out with a little bit of additional stamina bonus. King Halo Cheerleader, apparently I forgot all the graphics, but basically her unique is a little late on the straight. If you proc a 0.8, you're probably not getting much from the unique. It's more of a backup acceleration, and also you may have trouble staying in 5th position the whole time. So I almost like OG King Halo slightly better, but I know she does have some skills. I don't think Spring Spectacle, I think Spring Spectacle's one and that one doesn't work. Does she have Fast and Furious or Rising Dragon? She has some mid-range skill that may help you out in that regard, but I do like regular King Halo a little bit. El Condor Pasa, her ult's not going to be consistent, and it will be speed only because it's 2nd place, so think of it as a baby Tripulse. That's a really baby Tripulse at 0.25, but she does have 20 speed and 10 wit. Pasa Fantasy, her ult is very finicky because it early procs most times because it's the is overtake condition. Furious Feet and Rising Dragon and Kit, though, is not something to ignore. You basically, out of the box, have everything you need on this character, and then you're just trying to high roll with it by actually putting like truly consistent accelerations instead of focusing completely on just updrafters from 6th position and her unique. So she is powerful with that 15% speed bonus. It's just her ult is incredibly finicky, incredibly finicky. I need to not undersell this, that this will probably not proc in the Excel zone. Inari 1 can end closer. Her advantage for late surge is the fact you have access to on your left, but otherwise you can just run her end closer because I think she's perfectly fine with just flash forward, and through dueling with now your cruising is a tri-pulse as well. So tail 9 is her advantage over the rest of the pack. Tail 9 plus Daring Strike, however, as an end closer is probably going to get you in front of the late surgers, so I kind of suggest running her as end closer. Nishino Flower, I don't think there's a reason to run her late surger. I guess you're faster, but you are lobby gambling your ultimate, and her ultimate is kind of her entire kit. 0.4 acceleration, perfect proc is very powerful. You probably can hit that in the pace chaser position and be perfectly fine. Beeline bursting kit is usually your closing speed, which is what is needed on a pace chaser. Still good on a late surger. It does have updrafters in kit as well, as long as some supplementary late surger skills. Sweet Tosho can be end closer. Again, you're only running your late surger if you have access to pretty much all of the excels to make her more consistent, but I think you still just run her end closer. Again, her unique's going to be a little tough sometimes in certain lobbies if there's a ton of end closes. I think there's enough front runners and pace chasers. You shouldn't really have a problem, and she has 10% speed and 20% power, so we cannot discount her. Biwa Hayahide, unfortunately, I still think you pass into fourth. It still gets partially eaten. So when QED is as Biwa is better than the Inherit, but you will probably lose some of your unique, although it is probably better in the late surger position than it is in the pace chaser position because it doesn't completely instant proc. And do remember this is a 0.45, not just a 0.35. She has Hanshin Green and outer post proficiency as well, and 20% wit bonus with only a late B aptitude, so it is completely passable. Harurara New Year, if you get the turf aptitude up, this is the one to run because you basically have gold chip ultimate. You can run her in the late surger or the end closer position, but late surger does not require an additional spark, and you want as many turf sparks as possible. And of course, 20% power bonus will help you out a little bit. Otherwise, she is completely a clean slate. Special Week Commander gives you absolutely nothing, and her unique is a 0.25. Actually, it's also a 0.25 that gets completely eaten by the Excel zone, so never mind. Special Week Commander, probably just run one of the other special weeks if you can, because you need to proc skills in the late race in order to actually win. Nice Nature Cheerleader. On the final straight, this is kind of like the winning ticket thing we're about to talk about here, but basically you're trying to load up Excel on these characters that have final straight ultimates to hopefully go and get as high top speed as early as possible and let your unique go and carry your late race. Okay, so try to go and get as much excel as possible on these characters. You can still technically over excel, but you will get more of your unique the more excel that you actually hit. Fujikiseki Ballroom has so much pace stuff, you probably just run her pace. Measure Bright, you probably just run her end because she's a clean slate anyways. Measure Dober's ult doesn't work, but if you're trying to run it, you're trying to pass into fifth on that corner, I suppose. Grass Wonder Fantasy, just run the base Grass Wonder. And Winning Ticket Steampunk, just like I was talking about on the other straight uniques, Ticket to Your Dreams is a final straight guaranteed proc, which means you need to hit stuff like On Your Left and Lightning Surge to try to get to max speed as soon as possible. You're going to have part of your unique eaten. It's going to be like 75% if you only hit a 0.4, and it's going to be 20% if you hit like a 0.6, I believe a 0.6 or a 0.8. So you need to be getting her enough excels, and she kind of comes with the mid race and the late race that you need with downhill speedster, full throttle, position pilfer, and 15 mil CC. Of course, you're mile F, so you're gambling on that. I'm gambling on that, and hopefully I can hit one with a mile S. So we will go and build this character from there. She has 8% speed, 14% power, to help you out as well. I think this is the better winning ticket to try and run, in my personal opinion, because of just the supplementary skills that she does give. OG Winning Ticket has the same problems as Steampunk, except you get full Fast and Furious and late surge at corners, which is notably less, I think, than the stuff that Winning Ticket Steampunk gives. And of course, the unique can late proc though, but again, it's block sign continue time, so it's very tough, and you're losing speed bonus. So I think it slightly goes to the edge of Takezo Steampunk. Matekane Fujihitaru base is always tough with I see victory in my future, because apparently we see victory in our future while we're front blocked. Again, the only real way that I concede to play this character is to at least get nimble nav and hope that you're able to move your lanes fast enough that your front block doesn't turn into you bouncing up against them. So it's technically an additional acceleration if you're front blocked and you're in that inner lane and you're fully blocked, but it's very, 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 very tough to get that perfect condition. Otherwise, she is stock late surger. Agnes Takan, you probably should just play pace for her unique because you are concerned with spurting on this track. We are not concerned with surviving, so getting a late proc Tachyon ult is not going to be as useful as being a pace chaser and just getting that Tachyon ult to counter some of the stamina that we are utilizing, right? That was supposed to be for winning ticket. Just note that winning ticket also gives you every single late surger skill you pretty much need in the game. I would suggest running stuff like Hishi Amazon, Air Shakur, nice Narita Taishan, Ayabe, Gold Ship, all the natural end closers you probably should just run as end because they do have additional, like Daichi Ruby has given them actual gold skills to use for acceleration. So I think they're perfectly fine as end closer. I don't think you need to stretch them into late surger position. We'll talk about them in the end closer video. But this has been the late surger video. I hope you have enjoyed it. I'm trying to get these out faster. I was a little sick yesterday and the day before, so it has slowed down my pace a little bit, but I'm a little bit better now, so I am perfectly fine. Do not worry about me. Otherwise, we will go and do either the front runner or the end closer guide, hopefully this weekend, so look forward to that. All that's left is to thank you all for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. Memberships are available. They are never required. I try not to gatekeep things, but for those who have given a little back to the channel, I do like to go and call them out in the board tier. So thank you especially to Kikuzi IRL, Immobility, Mr. Merritt, Cresto Gautier, Lucifel, Peter Van Sand, Oscar Van Bruce, Mishia, Sage, CD Ogren, Sorcerer, Elise Bright, Etep Pete, Astrosarian, Eva Delta, Scrap X, It's Bella Knox, Curlicious, Brandy Boffin, Tony Lib, Dialectical, Sleepy Bat, Pavi, Trevor Overtone, Dalagante, Oguri Capizza Burger, Jeffrey Ism is the Goat, PH Bant C, Giras, Ariantes, The Real, Misho Doto, Awax Gubs, Tokateo Monarch, Velio, NC Summers Moon, Sypha CM, Frisk, Farizzly Bear, Aoi Tori, Dev Null, Ramiro Ray, Error Hentai, Viet Kuhn, Arfenis, Just Some Major, Hungry Llama, Ghost Muffins, Bcelia, Josephone, and Doll. Thank you all for watching. Again, I will be trying to help out in either the Discord and the comments down below. So if you have a question, I will try to answer it. It's very tough to keep up with people this time, but I am just trying to do my best. So worst case scenario, go over to the Ask for Help channel in the Discord. That's available on the channel description, not the video description, sorry. So with that out of the way, good luck if you are building a late surger. Take care, everyone, and burb out.